Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 60, the podcast about our lives and love of pop culture. I am your host this week, OldManStompy, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And from Hungary, Dracologist.
Whoa.
Yeah, welcome back, Dracologist. I didn't have the pleasure of podcasting with you the last time you were on, so I'm happy to have the opportunity now. As for the rest of us, Vice is on vacation, so that shows that if you don't die the hero, you live long enough to become Vice the Bold, which is why I'm here now.
Old man scurp stomping.
Mm-hmm. So we have a pretty interesting show for you lined up. We don't have the usual cast of characters. So Dracologist, why don't you go ahead and get us started on our first segment?
Oh, good. Always start with the new guy, right? You
Yep,
heartless monster.
It's our hazing process.
Anyway, alright, so where to start? Well, let's start with something I think me and OldManStompy were playing, I think. I think you said you had that game, and that is Hollow Knight.
I do own Hollow Knight, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet, so I will take your experiences as canonical.
I would like to explain the experiences, but it would be. Let's just say it would. If I would give them to it would not make your suffering that sweet. That game is That game is very unforgiving. It's a gorgeous game, great music. It has a very very good story, but it's not something that you're going to enjoy in a way that I'm just going to breeze through it. It's basically what do you call it? Basically, Dark Souls meets The Bug Life.
That sounds lovely.
I mean, from what I hear, its fans really love it.
Yeah, it's really good, but some of the boss fights are a little bit unbalanced, I would say. Like you have like your different attacks are like you have a basic four-directional slash attack, and you have a charge attack, and you have collect various spells. But in truth, you actually have no ways of like locking someone into a combo attack because you don't have a combo attack. So you often fall in like the best strategy most of the time is hit the enemy once, then hide in a corner, wait for the enemy to finish all his screen clearing attacks, and then go back and slashing them again.
So you said there's no combo, so what, you only have like single strikes, I guess?
Yes, you have a single very powerful strike, but it's as the game progresses, you get gradually more outclassed by your enemies, as per usual difficulty scales. Also, there is easy contact damage, and that combined with some enemies, it's really really aggravating. Like one of the enemies, a returning enemy, are like a lady who constantly challenges your not authority, your validity. I think I would say like she wants to know that you are legit or not. And she just flies around the screen like an absolute bullet, and you can practically not, like, you're not taking damage because of her attacks, you're taking damage because she brushed against your shoulder.
So frustrating.
Yeah. So how would you say the learning curve is, just in terms, since you mentioned the game is very difficult, and I believe it's also sort of an open exploration style, like Metroidvania kind of game.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Imagine the point-based life system of Binding of Isaac with platforming of, what do you call that? Super Meat Boy with the Dark Souls-like difficulty.
Super Meat Boy Super Meat Boy is already like the 2D Dark Souls. Like now we got Super Meat Boy meets Dark Souls. It's ridiculous.
Yes, there is a few spike trap levels where you have to do wall slidey, platformy, timey-wimey, stick to walls, jump, time at platform nonsense. There is a part where there are not large enemies like this giant centipede. It just crawls out across the screen, and it's a hazard. Like you can avoid it if you're not taking its way. And if you jump over it and strike downward, you basically bounce any kind of hazard if you strike it, even in spikes. Now there's a segment where you like this giant centipede crawls, and you basically have to bounce continuously using the downward strikes.
That sounds almost like the super jump from Super Mario RPG. Like, make sure you get that timing right.
Anyway, I think I leave OldManStompy to explore that game for itself. It's gorgeous. Every time you get frustrated by a boss, you enter a so gorgeously made level, and it's just like, it's so beautiful.
I do look forward to it. Yeah.
And the story bits are actually interesting. But yeah, it's very heavily you can feel the Dark Souls stuff.
I gotta say,
yeah.
I was just gonna say I'm a little surprised to hear about the crazy platforming, because I knew it was a 2D game with platforms, but I thought it was like in the Super Metroid sense. I didn't realize it was like Super Meat Boy levels of like sliding and avoiding traps while you're platforming.
Yeah. One more thing about platforming: if you fall into like a death hazard, like spikes or corrosive stuff, you are basically teleported back to the closest safe position.
Oh, that's decent.
Yeah, but only when it teleports you to a location that you have been not to the start of the level.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds slightly more forgiving. I mean, since you mentioned Super Meat Boy, like Super Meat Boy is one of those games which is designed for you to just pound yourself into the level over and over again until you beat it, but because it has instant death. So if Hollow Knight has a life point system that actually kind of puts it on a level above, a little bit easier than Super Meat Boy in terms of difficulty. Maybe
you say that now. You say that now.
I do say that. I say a lot of things.
Yeah, it just makes me think of Dark Souls, where it's like I upgraded my vitality and you still get one shot because like the enemy is just stupidly powerful.
Well, at least here the upgrades are more Metroid. Like once you get an upgrade, that's an extra whole life point.
Sure.
You still get knocked the fuck out, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Other games I could talk about. Well, I've been recently playing a lot of Grip, if anyone heard about that.
What was it?
Grip. Grip, like holding onto something. Grip.
Oh, like just, okay, like the action of gripping. Okay, no, I have not heard of that.
It's basically Roll Cage 3, if you if anyone heard about that game.
Rock of Ages?
No. Roll Cage.
Oh, no. Okay.
The PS2 game, I think.
That sounds a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, I have not heard of that one either, I'm afraid.
It's a racing game where you race with cars that has two sides and large wheels. So it's like that old Matchbox toy that it had two sides, only larger and faster.
Okay.
You can get really good beats on it. Other games I played, Overload. I would like to highlight that game too. That game is a little bit on an early access because basically it hasn't got a single player campaign yet, only a sort of this arena based challenge mode. However, if anyone remembers Deathstate, then I would recommend looking into that.
Okay.
360 freedom first person shooter.
Nice.
Wow. Other games I think there was an entire plethora of roguelike games that recently came out or just can be validated. What I have is Skyrogue, which is an Ace Combat-like roguelite, where you fly planes, destroy specific targets, and blast off, return to your mothership.
I guess of course you can make a roguelike about anything, but it just never occurred to me that you could have like an Ace Combat style roguelike.
It's pretty rad. It has a very stylish, minimalistic look to it. And the modding community has been making some amazing conversions of other vehicles. Like you have Ace Combat vehicles, you have the Vic Viper from Gladius.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's basically just the looks, but some of them are very cool. Sure. Other roguelikes Arcane. There was one I saw was called Astes, which is I think Mr. Ryu 40. What's it? Mr. Ryu would like.
We just call Mr. Ryu, but
yes,
45 if you really want to know.
45. We don't have 44 other Mr. Ryus that we feel the need to use the number continuously to disambiguate them.
He does that just to confuse us.
Yes, it's a sort of like this Aztec Mayan culture game where basically one part strategy game, one part sort of one-on-one fighter combined with brawler. Like it has the one-on-one fighter technicals, like some like bounce cancelling and what have you, and it has also has a very stylish art style. Other games are interesting, like what was that? Oh yeah, I do want to say like because Wise talking about Enter of the Gungeon and Lotus plays and OldManStompy plays Binding of Isaac 2. All of you look into Deathstate, which is a bullet hell Lovecraftian roguelite.
Oh,
Nice.
wow, that sounds like it hits all the right buttons for me.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, like I know like roguelike has roguelite specifically has become like one of the defining genres of like the Steam age of gaming, and it's hard to tell which ones are actually like worth playing until you sink a lot of hours into them. Especially since like you have to learn a lot about the mechanics to really see how deep the game goes and how much like replayability it's going to have, like how much you're going to get hooked by the iterations as your character dies.
There's one thing that I saved the best for the last, and that's Dead Cells. If anyone heard that.
Death Cells?
Dead Cell.
Dead Cell.
Dead Cells.
From Metal Gear Solid 2.
No.
No, just immediately.
No.
You fool.
How dare you?
Again, a Dark Souls-like game, with a more Metroidvania look to it. You basically, the interesting thing that like basically the game starts that this pile of green goo falls out from a tube and possesses a decapitated body, and that's you. You basically are a beheaded corpse with a flame on his head.
Well then.
You basically you have like it has very stylish combo-based combat, very interesting like combination of attacks. Like you can have a sword that oils up enemies, and you can throw them a fiery bomb at them and set them on fire.
Nice.
And the game is like, aside from having this grim, this dark design for it, it actually is rife with various kind of modern and popular culture jokes, memes, if you like. Like one of the updates was called "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend."
Nice. I wouldn't say that's a meme.
I mean, it's been used in memes.
Yeah, sure.
One of the funniest things I look at, like, enemies sometimes jump off these ledges, and before he jumps off, there is a like little text box with that has YOLO written in it.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice. I can appreciate that.
They fall into their death, it goes splat.
What's your favorite?
I haven't had.
No, I was just gonna say, what's your favorite James Bond movie? Yolt.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Yay! Something that the OldManStompy gets finally.
The movie that Roald Dahl had a part in writing. What?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh. I didn't know that.
It's so
I learned something
weird.
today.
But anyway, that's radically off topic. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just going to say that Dead Cells is the first game that Dracologist listed that I was actually familiar with, not because I played it, but because, aside from Hollow Knight, of course, but because Northern Lion did a series on it. And for a lot of North Americans who watch a lot of YouTube Let's Plays, he's sort of like the first point of entry for recommendations of roguelikes, because he's sort of like the definitive Binding of Isaac Let's Player.
If I have to say something, I prefer Setroven and Tear of Grace. They are much more funnier, I think.
I didn't say it was funny, just that a lot of people watch it.
Yeah, but I'm watching Let's Play nowadays to either for the game or for the yucks.
Yeah.
For the yucks. That's bad news for me, I guess.
Those two are really, really funny. Like if you look up Tear of Grace plug Shadow of Mordor Let's Play, you're going to lose sight on that video series. Anyway,
Nice.
moving on.
Nice. So is that all you got for us this week, or hey, you have some more recommendations? Because I'd be happy to hear them. I love to fill my Steam library with stuff I never play. Please promise that I will.
Well, if you insist, I can go on.
No, please do. Like, I remember last time you were on, you recommended a couple of games that I'd heard of, like, totally at random, like Oniken, that I don't even know how I wound up with the game in my library, but it was like a real, like, indie gem. It was made by, like, some Brazilian developer that I never would have heard of, except that I randomly stumbled on in a sale. And so, like...
Why am I familiar with most of these indie games? Because I work with the Steam Greenlight, is a cleaning group.
Yeah, right. So you're a good reference for us.
I can't help you.
Give us your top 5 things that you haven't heard us refer to so far.
I don't do the top 5s, bottom 5s. I can make difference because I like different games, like different for reasons.
Okay, well then give us 5 random games that strike your fancy with no particular order whatsoever.
Let's see. For example, I could talk about Old Boy.
Okay.
Wait, Old Boy like the movie?
No, the owl, like the sticky
Oh,
eye.
Owl Boy.
Oh,
Yeah,
I heard that was brilliant.
Yeah, I've heard it's excellent.
Gorgeous graphics, wonderful music, and the animation has so much characteristic to it that it's brilliant.
And
Yeah,
apparently the
I like that.
characters have character too. Like, from what I hear, you actually care about the people in that game.
Yeah, it's lovely. I have to finish it because I kind of stuck in somewhere. I played a little bit more of Shadow Warrior 2 because recently there was an update. Well, it's a bonus DLC. They added it's free DLC with extra stuff. Why not use it?
Yeah, that's cool.
Of course. Free is excellent. Free is my
Yes.
favorite price.
I do know that Shrouded of Sanity sequel is going to come out recently, not so soon.
It's Shroud of Insanity, you said?
Shrouded Insanity. It's
Oh, Shrouded. Okay.
I think I streamed it to Lotus. That the very pixely sort of Bloodborne-like game.
Oh, that I didn't realize that wasn't out yet, but that did look pretty cool from what I saw. Yeah, it really basically is like, you know how OldManStompy. Do you know? Oh, I'm gonna lose my mind. There's an indie like pixely game that's basically Silent Hill in 2D, but it's not Silent Hill. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Lone Survivor, but not.
Thank you, Lone Survivor. Yeah,
that's right.
Shrouded Insanity is basically that, but Bloodborne. Like, you even inject yourself to heal, and you have the gun and the blade. Like, it is unofficial 2D Bloodborne.
Oh, nice. You've done Lone Survivor as Let's Play, right?
No, I haven't, but that would be right in my wheelhouse.
All right.
Only difference is that Shrouded Sanity is like it's slightly isometric. Like, you have the Streets of Rage style sort of up and down.
Yeah,
walking.
yeah, you can move
okay.
toward and away from the camera, but it's it's 2D with slight 3D elements, kind of barely like depth of field, I guess. Yeah.
There's a sequel coming through it. Like Shroud of Sanity is out, is the sequel called Usurper is coming out,
Oh, okay.
which will be a more traditional platformer sort of. Wanted to say quick Castlevania style game.
I should look into Shroud of Insanity as well.
So,
though.
actually a Castlevania game and not like a roguelike kind of game?
No, not
Because
not roguelike. This one is not roguelike.
All right, awesome.
I do want to talk about a little bit of Redout, if anyone interested.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Redout is it's a gorgeous looking Wipeout game.
Is that the one that's on the Switch?
Yes, it's actually coming out of the Switch. And the only problem I'm having with the PC port, that the bastards forget to put in rebindable keys.
Oh, I hate that.
Jesus Christ. And I actually went to a discussion program and asked me like, could you put in it? And someone says, no, they can't, because the whole thing is so much integrated that they can't. Holy crap.
All you have to do is just allow the keys to be rebound. Like, if it's a pain for the player to do it, then they could still choose whether to do it or not.
Yeah, otherwise the game would be really much fun because it's a high dynamic, very gorgeous looking, is a Wipeout-like game.
So, so since the name recalls Wipeout, is this supposed to be like a spiritual successor to Wipeout? Was it made with that intent?
No, I don't think so. Like, it works in slightly different mechanics, but it's like the spaceship racer game, like the hover vehicle racing. It's not like the spaceship racing game like Slipstream 5000 or Pyroblazer.
So it's not Redline, it's not Wipeout.
Yeah, I always think of Redline first.
Redline is a different. I think that's a car racing game, no?
Well, Redline was
it's an anime.
Yeah, it's a future car racing anime that is extremely well animated.
Yeah, I actually saw that.
Yeah.
Well, what else I can recommend? I returned a little bit back to Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, which is for the Emperor.
You know, I kind of like what I know about 40K, which is very little, just because I was on a Reddit thread a while back where it was like, what would be the worst, like, anime or video game universe to live in? And oh god damn, like the answers for Warhammer were just like the worst. Like one of the things I remember two things in particular. One of them was this horrible cult that worships this god of suffering, but the god himself hates to be worshipped, so that causes more pain on everything. But the main thing I remember was that apparently there is a hell, and that hell has a hell, and that hell has a hell. It's just like, what the fuck? Like this, like forget this entire universe.
I do not know where did you come from, but I think you might have been misinformed. There is no every god requires every chaos god requires worshipping.
Well, they may, but there is just some guy that just doesn't like it, I guess.
No. Each god that they like to be worshipped, but each god has a different mentality. I mean, we can.
Okay.
I think we should not. I think I'm going to talk about 40k in the next session. All right, or the next.
Sure.
Like reactive consciousness, if it's possible.
Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, that would also be a great like recon topic, because those of us who are on the podcast regularly have basically no knowledge of that. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I think the person who has the closest amount of knowledge to that would probably be Pyro, because I think he's had that card game that's within the universe, like the Space Hulk game.
Yeah, that's more because he's like a big board game fanatic, so like
Yeah.
he's exposed to a lot of properties that have
The problem with I think about if I'm start waffling about Warhammer 40k, that's going to keep longer than OldManStompy waffling about wrestling.
Sure.
well, they have me back week after week to do that, so I don't have to do it all in one episode.
Regardless, there is one last thing about one to know for everyone to know. Slime Rancher is actually out. It's out from beta, and it's out from.
Well, what was it? Slime Rancher?
That's also on the Switch too, right? Or it's coming
I
on the
do
Switch?
not know, but
That sounds familiar.
buy it, please buy it, because it's absolutely adorable, and the developers need all the money hugs they can get. It is a wonderful little time waster. It is just adorable.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about that besides the cute factor? Because that's usually enough to get me to buy a game and share it with my wife, but I'd like to know a little bit about what we're getting into.
A game basically is you are basically living on a little sort of this alien planet farm-like place where you're collecting slimes. Basically, little blobs of smiley blobs. You pick them up, you breaking back to your little farm, you put them in little corrals, you feed them food, and you basically pick up their poop. They basically generate little gems after they eat, which you can collect and cash in, basically.
Wow.
And there are at least like how much, like I think 16 different type of slimes, each with their specific diet. Like some like the point is that the slimes have three different types: omnivore, carnivore, and herbivore. And the herbivore splits between eating vegetables and fruits. And every slime has its own special kind of food that they really like. So why are you rubbing your face? Like, oh, I must prepare for this.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners, I'm actually seeing OldManStompy right now. Wish I wouldn't.
Oh yeah, I do this all the time anyway. I am intrigued by Slime Rancher, so I guess you've picked up on the visual cues.
And there's many interesting little mechanics, like you can grow crops. You can have a little laboratory where you can create various gadgets. You can explore large areas. Some areas have very special little mechanics that are very enjoyable to find out. Like, for example, I very much needed help with how to get the tesseractical lemons of the tree. They're literal lemons that exist in 4 different dimensions, and getting them off the tree is not as easy.
Man, this game took a turn.
It's fun. It's amusing, and it's cute, and I really love it.
Awesome.
The problem is that I'm very much started to play the game from the beginning, so I have, like, as they added more stuff in, I very much easily could have access to it. So I'm pretty much like just, okay, I explored every content, and I'm sitting on a large pile of money. Now what?
Yeah.
That's true. A lot of these like daily iteration games, they have that kind of like a they have that end game when you've explored everything and you're waiting for the next patch to come out so you can do more stuff. But if you had a good time getting there, then it was still worth the money.
But yeah, it's similar to Harvest Moon and similar like other games. Only you not making crops to sell or animals. You basically can go out and find these little critters and pick them up and basically exploit them. But they get fed, and it seems to be the only thing they care about.
Mm-hmm. It cuts out a little bit of the trimmings. I think cuts a little bit of the fat out from Harvest Moon instead of like intricately planning out all your like farms, like how you plant your vegetables and like where you pen your.
Actually, they're like placing certain slimes next to like there are slimes that have special traits that makes them not suitable to place them on close groups, because like one example, for example, flies, and if you not put some web sorting a catching net above your coral, they fly out and fly into the other slimes around.
Oh.
And the danger is that
that slimy double crosser.
Slimes can eat one type of slimes can hybridize, and once they eat a different plort of they call these little gems plorts, and if they eat a plort of a different, they become a combine. They fuse with that trait. So you can have like a cat slime fused with a slime that explodes, and then you can become this big fiery cat that at certain given times just creates an explosion. And if you're not careful, there are like slimes that, for example, teleport or can reach out through the coral with the help of vines, or capable to escape with various means. And if there's a slime that has already eaten a different type of plort, and it eats a third type, then it becomes something called a tar, which is a slime-eating monster, and it's very dangerous, and it can ruin.
Wow.
Like you have to be very careful.
Talk about becoming what you hate.
It's kind of, but it's adorable. Like the entire visual design is just gorgeous. They do a lot of things.
Yeah, so like that and like Hollow Knight and like Owlboy, those are all like games that I've looked into specifically because like the visual design is so compelling, and
If I may recommend other visual design, if you know the series made by Amanita Designs.
Okay, which one's that?
The group is called Amanita Design, and they made Botanicula and Samarost. I'm not telling what are those, you have to look those up. But
all right.
I've heard of at least Botanicula.
They're little portal clip games, but they have a very interesting art design. Like they basically make stuff out of like They take photos of various nature things, natural things, and like left behind debris or something, building parts, and they Photoshop it together into various like environmental pieces.
That's clever.
Like for example, like one of the main character in Samaros lives in what appears to be a big can of bananas. What appears.
Okay, that sounds pretty unique.
It's cute. It's really cute. And people say that I might be playing up that I'm I'm like all the cute little stuff. Like last time we talked about with Vice about Doom and how it's going to be like how it should be taking up more take up after more mods. Like mm-hmm. I think I'm still saying that I really want to say the Guncaster in the next Doom, because power armor wearing dragon wielding a 8-barrel shotgun is basically what Doom needs as a next step.
I can see that working.
Next level up, yeah. All right. So thanks for all the recommendations. I have a good reason now to listen to this podcast episode so that I can remember them all. So thanks, Dracologist, again. Lotus, why don't we move to your segment and tell us about how you were this week?
Well, sure. I played a little more, not too much more, but a little of The Witcher 2, and now I'm actually exploring Chapter 2. So I went from locale number 1, well, from Chapter 1, its locale anyway, which was a small kind of backwater town, and locale number 2 is a military fort, so all of the buildings in there are tents that hold soldiers and the armory and stuff like that. So it's a makeshift, military installment on the move. So nothing is glamorous, but nothing is supposed to be glamorous. And at this point, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to lift a curse that was put on a battlefield because the king had someone executed in a particularly brutal way, and as she was dying, she cursed everybody. So it's how do I lift that? And I'm trying to find out what the nature of the curse is. And I found this one document that I gave to the king's mage, or I didn't give it to him, but I let him see it, and he was just like, Jesus, this is a level 4 necromancy curse. that's hard for any wizard to do, and it's also you could get burned at the stake just for having this. It's Jesus. Right. So I'm I'm gonna have to deal with whatever, caused this. What I find interesting, though, is that some people around the camp are saying that the king's mage might be a villain. Yeah, I mean, it falls under the, the most trusted advisor was the bad guy all along trope. And on one hand, The Witcher's pretty decent plot twists, but on the other hand, if this guy really is a bad guy, he's almost revealing that hand a little too much for a few reasons. Number one, when I showed him that document, he asked me if he could buy it from me, and I'm like, didn't you just say that was highly illegal? He's like, yeah, but I collect stuff like this. And I'm like, no. So there's that. There's the fact that, you know how villains tend to look ugly. He's got poorly set yellow teeth and stuff. He looks like he just dedicates his life to magic and nothing else, and he's just I'll do whatever it takes. And he says stuff that the king even finds to be a little dude, shut up, mage, you're not needed here. He throws in he throws his weight around a little too much for someone who's standing next to the king. And also, I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but his name is freaking Death Mold. Just straight up, it's I don't know if I trust Death Mold. It's
a name that looks like it has boss subtitles after it on the splash screen somewhere.
Oh, I know,
game, right?
Yeah, the evil John colon Death Mold. It's but that's his actual name. Well then, I mean, it's not his fault his parents named him. But
every good mystery has an obvious suspect right at the start, and it plays
that's what I'm
expectations.
That's what I'm hoping happens, because the first game had a really good twist regarding who was helping me and who the bad guy. I knew who the bad guy was, but he was posing as somebody in the town, and the game really did a good job with, but who could it be? But here it's Death Mold, the man who wants to buy your highly illegal necromancer spell. Can he be trusted? It's So I'll see if anything comes of this. Yeah, but Dracologist, what were you gonna say?
If you've managed to answer a series of ambiguous questions in the game, you will become Geralt of Trivia.
Yeah, touche. Unfortunately, there isn't... Well, the first game kind of did have trivia. I had to argue with an alchemist about alchemy. And if you've really done your research, actually read the books in-game, then you can actually argue why this supposed crackpot's ideas are actually legitimate in the field of alchemy and beat an alchemist at his own game. It's kind of amazing. And I don't know if I'd call that trivia, but it kind of is. If you're an alchemist, it's not, but if you're a guy playing the Witcher video game, then it's super trivia. Witcher 2 hasn't had anything like that yet, but then again, I'm still just starting the game, so who knows. Otherwise, I had mentioned that finished Undertale, and the Let's Play was going to be 19 parts long, and I edited 10. Well, now I've edited them all, so once Skies of Arcadia is done going up, which by the time this podcast is public, it will have all gone up. It won't all be viewable publicly, but I will have uploaded all of it at least. The patrons will get to view the whole thing. I'm going to give myself a little time between Let's Plays, but Undertale is going to go up next, so at long last, OldManStompy will get to witness the edited fruits of our labors here. And Mitty Mitz
so he has
also
been periodic...
Lotus works his magic to edit out his OldManStompy.
So that's why he keeps sending me voice clips of
voice clips
that he thinks are really amusing. So now you've revealed that he's actually completely scrubbing my voice and sending it to me piece by piece.
Well, no, I mean, all I did was I watched the Let's Play, and whenever I heard you say something funny, I'm like, oh, okay, and then I cut that one little part and then just render it out. I'm like, here, listen to this. It was kind of funny.
Except for that one time when you accidentally muted the whole thing and then sent me an empty voice clip.
Yeah, I sent him a 6-second nothing clip. Like, Lotus.
So for those of you the magic, for those of you who have not been witness to the Lotus Prince magic, you know, the magic doesn't always happen.
Turns out I'm just a normal schlub who makes mistakes.
I think I've seen Lotus blunder several times. So
No, I mean, no, I have done it before. Even during Skies of Arcadia, I uploaded an installment where I didn't have my "we certainly made a lot of progress" bit at the end. And a couple people were like, was this intentional or did you forget it? And I'm like, I forgot it. So I had to re-upload the entire installment.
I will also say that I've advertised the fact that the three of us are in a Let's Play together to my mother, who you know has watched your Let's Play videos before and found your gameplay skills wanting.
I know.
On occasion.
I beat Demon Souls with all light and dark world tendencies. Tell your mom to watch that one.
I don't think she'll find it very interesting.
Oh. Okay.
So I'm really hoping
that
one
don't care.
that one segment, like 2 or 3, maybe 4 parts in, where you like are like half a step away from solving a puzzle, and then like still manage to screw it up.
Yes. And then I go to the much harder puzzle and immediately get it, and it's like, why did I fail so miserably at the easy one?
Yeah.
Because if it's easy, sometimes easy puzzles can be deceptively easy.
Yeah, but this one was. Like, just, it was supposed to be, like in the context of the game, it's a puzzle made by a fuck-up, and I'm, like, failing at solving it. It's like, oh.
And to be fair, like, part of the charm of the game is that if you fail long enough, he will just do it for you, because he's getting, like, frustrated that you're
It didn't get that far, fortunately.
Yeah, you didn't quite get that far, but it was a possibility.
Oh. Yeah, but I'm watching Let's Play nowadays to either for the game or for the yucks. Yeah. It's as I play through, so blinded. But
it's super
I
good.
do need to learn how to record and edit videos at first, because that's a knowledge I don't know. I mean,
the good news is a lot of stuff is very user friendly.
I actually asked a friend called Lord Crocus Squirrel, who is the head of currently the Direct Damage crew. The Guards of Grow's Steam Guard, and he said that if he can find his time, then he's going to teach me how to do the whole video editing stuff. So,
awesome.
Yay!
Yeah, I mean, depending what you want to do, it can be really hard or pretty just by the numbers. So, like, if all you want to do is just talk over a game, then the process is actually pretty straightforward. Like, there's a program called OBS, which just kind of does everything for you.
But the video, I think I do want to edit the video in a way, like cut out unwanted parts and maybe put a fade in fade out part at the beginning at the end, and maybe later maybe go into again like the previously mentioned 2 knuckleheads, Seth Rowan and Gerald Grace, who really edit that like. In their Let's Play, just for example, like every time something falls off, like someone falls off, there is a Yahoo, like goofy holler.
That goofy woo! I love that sound. I love that sound.
Especially in a game like Shadow of Mordor. Imagine like when orcs just randomly fly, like just you see an orc randomly fall off a tower, and like he just puts that sound in, and it's just so fittingly funny.
Yeah, I could definitely see something like that going in like Dark Souls or something in the Great Hollow. Just like you fall for days.
It's also like when you make an episode of a Let's Play series, you usually want it to end on a high note. It's like something that makes the audience laugh, especially when they're watching live, because they won't get to see the next episode for a couple of days. So like having those little bits edited in at the end, oftentimes as like Easter eggs, gives the audience that little extra like oomph that makes them really look forward to it leaves them with a positive association of your video, because their last memory was of something that made them really laugh.
And please like, subscribe, and
like, comment, and subscribe.
Follow
me on Twitter, Instagram.
Well, fine. We'll just skip the outro today.
Yeah. Well, this has been Corrective Consciousness. It just ends.
Lotus, it's up to you to edit out the goofy yell for the last 30 seconds of the podcast this week.
All right, but anyway, a long story short, too late. Undertale's freaking awesome. It's all edited, so yeah. Once Skies of Arcadia is fully complete, I'm going to enjoy putting that up. And the only other things I really wanted to bring up was actually Dark Souls itself. I mentioned this last week, but I started Let's Playing Dark Souls, And because this is getting toward the end of my summer break, in fact, my semester will start on the day people are hearing this podcast, on the Tuesday. So this is like the last opportunity I have to just stay up too late and record, Dark Souls. So I've really been just blowing through installments here. I have like 17 recorded parts already, and man, that game's hard. I mean, like the fun, like duh, but like it's interesting because gameplay. I mentioned this last time. Gameplay mechanics have generally improved from Demon Souls. I think the most noticeable thing though is that the level design. Like Demon Souls had cool level design, but you could never you can walk from World 1-1 to World 1-2. It's really just World 1 and that's it. I just say 1-1 and 1-2 because there are checkpoints you have to beat each boss, but you there's no way you can go from World 1 to World 2. You have to warp to and from the hub world, the Nexus. In Dark Souls, there are exactly 2 places, I guess kind of 3, that you cannot walk to. 2 of them you fly to, and 1 of them you actually do kind of warp to, but otherwise everywhere in the game connects to everywhere else, and the game design is just, from what I've played, just unmatched. Now, later Souls games and Bloodborne may do as good as or better of a job, but I haven't gotten to those yet. But Dark Souls is just so well designed. Like the levels themselves are really cool, but when you advance to a far point and you open some door and you realize how far back it leads, and you're like, oh, I can just get from here to there now, like it kind of blows your mind. Like Demon Souls kind of pulled that with the very first level where you go all the way up this castle and then you open, like you cut this chain which opens a door, which means, oh, I can easily access this part that took me 15 minutes to get to. Now I can get there in like 2 minutes. But Dark Souls does that constantly. Like Demon Souls does it, yeah, like Demon Souls does that within the context of its levels. Dark Souls does too, but Dark Souls also will connect whole sections of the game to each other. Like I'll go from Firelink Shrine to Undead Burg to Undead Parish, and then I'll take an elevator from Undead Parish back to Firelink, and I'm like, it was right above it the whole time. Like something like that just blows my mind every single time it happens. Even though I've already played the game, it still impresses me. So it's just really cool to see that stuff in action. And for the record, where I am right now in terms of recording is the beginning of Sen's Fortress. I'm not going to go too much into description of that, but if you've ever played Dark Souls before, if you've ever gotten far in it, and you know what Sen's Fortress is, then you know that it's no good. Sen's Fortress is like, it just reminds me of the Tower of Latria from Demon Souls, and also to a degree the arrow traps from World 4 of Demon Souls. Sen's Fortress is one of those levels. It makes me think of Scrap Brain Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 1, in that it has enemies, but there aren't too many of them. The real threat is the level itself. Like, the environment just wants you dead so badly. So everywhere you go, you're going way too slowly because you're afraid of anything, including treasure chests at this point. So this is where Dark Souls really steps up its game. Like, it's always been hard, but now the level itself is your enemy.
That's a throwaway statement, but the mimics in Dark Souls are like some of the scariest fucking mimics I've ever seen in any video game.
I mean, I've actually
deliberately made them very dangerous, so that's like, a fuck-up is not just, oh, I'm gonna fight this off. No, a fuck-up is going that you are dead.
But I mean, there are games like the Tales games where the mimics are very powerful. They're also like some of the creepiest looking enemies too, because they're just like a skeletal, like mummified body on top of a giant treasure chest with big pointy teeth, and the movements are so unnatural. They're creepy.
Yeah, like I've thought about this for years, and I've never done a single thing toward it. So that's kind of my MO. But I've sort of wanted to make like a top list of just mimics in video games. Some of those things are freaking terrifying. I remember OldManStompy from your own Alundra Let's Play. Those mimics are fucked up. Like the really fleshy, blobby, like shambling mimics. Just like, hell no. Like the thing is, usually when I picture mimics, I picture the ones from Dark Cloud, because they're actually a rather common kind of mimic. Usually I picture the chest opens and it has teeth and arms come out of the chest, so it kind of walks with its hands toward you or hops a bit. And, Rogue Legacy kind of does that too. Dark Clouds were a little scary because...
Well, they should. That's the same company.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're both level 5 games.
Wow. Okay. But no, but Dark Clouds were particularly scary because they would do like a little gonna get you sound when you approach them. They kind of just leap up at you before you realize what's going on. In Dark Souls, that doesn't happen. You have to either strike the chest or try opening it. And like Dracologist said, if you try opening it, then they will bite you, which does not necessarily kill you, but it'll kill you. It does insane... I don't mean in the sense of, it's a guaranteed one-hit kill, but it does insane damage. And the very first time you encounter a Mimic, there is no way that you have enough health to prepare for that. So, you're gonna die. What I think the creepiest part about the Mimics in Dark Souls is that if you just let it sit, if you don't open them or strike them, if you look really closely at them and just let the camera sit there, you'll see them very slowly breathe, and it's really unnerving. The chest opens a little, like a crack, not enough to you to notice if you're not paying attention. You have to already know and look for it. It's really creepy. And of course, when it does attack you, the arms come out, and I'm like, oh, this looks like Mimics I've seen before. And then it sprouts legs, and it is way taller than you. I'm like, whoa! And it just, the first time I ever encountered a Mimic, I had recorded a video before I knew I was going to Let's Play Dark Souls. This is years ago. I'd recorded a video of just a Mimic, and the first thing it did was try to, just this big soccer kick on me, or, British football. It just did this big, boot, and it didn't hit me, but it looked like I would have cleared the field goal if that thing had connected. It was brutal. I do not want to go anywhere near this thing, and it does these long telegraphed but extremely powerful punches. It's just and when you first encounter it, you're in too much of a what state to realize it's actually not a hard enemy to fight, but you're too panicked because it's just loping after you. It's awful. So that's the level I'm on, where even the treasure chests are traps.
So have we just spoiled the #1 Mimic on your top 10 Mimics list?
Probably, but it's still cool. Actually, not necessarily. There are some crazy Mimics, man. There's the piano from Mario 64.
Well, let's leave it for the video then.
Yeah, if I ever make it.
Well, now you have to make it.
I guess.
Can I add two? There's Mimics from Terraria and the Mimics from Torchlight.
I gotta look up both of those because I haven't played either.
They basically very much the same. The Terraria, in Terraria, the levels are generally generated with lots of little chests. And as you enter in hard mode difficulty, then there are I don't remember this chest here. Oh goody! And suddenly this guy opens up with teeth and a tongue and start hopping at you with very very much ardor, and they actually deal a lot of damage. But they also have a good payout. They drop very rare items. They always give 1 gold. In Torchlight, they are generally just basically nuisance because you are basically the Diablo equivalent of this hack and slash god. When something jumps on you, just smack it down.
Speaking of, I don't remember that chest being there before. This wouldn't quite count as Mimics, but it makes me think of the necromorphs in Dead Space, where when you backtrack to an area, if you haven't been paying attention, then everything you murder everything, but there might be bodies you don't remember being there before, and sure enough, they're new enemies just lying down. It's super unsettling. So you can't even trust the rooms you've cleared. It's pretty rough. But the last thing I wanted to bring up was, because this is kind of what I was saying when I started talking about Dark Souls, but my semester starts on Tuesday, so
Good luck.
Yeah, I am going to have, I think, a very busy semester. I'm actually teaching 1 fewer class than I did last semester, but I'm going to be making up for that with various just tutoring appointments and things like that. So, I'm going to be occupied a lot. So, I'm not going to be able to do as much recording and editing as I'm able to, it's summer vacation. Let me record, literally 5 installments of Undertale in a row. I was able to do that. There is no freaking way I'm doing more than 1 or 2 at best.
We did the whole game. We did the whole game in 3 sessions, right? If I recall correctly.
Yeah, that we can get away with though, because we recorded on a night where I didn't have work the next day and I didn't have work to do that night. So it's let's record for some unreasonable period of time, and we did. So we were able to nail that. But I'm not going to be able to consistently just put out or no, well, I should. Well, I mean, I want to have a Let's Play done before I start uploading it, so I can consistently put out stuff, but I won't be able to consistently produce stuff. So we'll see how I handle myself this semester.
Well, at a bare minimum, we'll get that weekly like Yakuza 6, awesome fight like.
Yeah. Here's the thing I did today. In my case, I really insist on chronological order. So like if I do a Yakuza thing, it's gonna be like 0 next. I always feel so bad because it's like, guys, they're releasing Yakuza 6. They're releasing Kiwami 2. I'm like, I still haven't played 0, which is already like starting to get old because there's like 3 more games. God damn it!
I haven't finished Yakuza 3.
I didn't play any of the Yakuza games. Yay!
They're great. But yeah, so I gotta play 0.
I did play
and
Saints Row 3 and 4.
So you're the one who keeps recommending to me that I play Saints Row 3, right? I have that in my Steam account.
Yes, because it has rustling in it.
That's a great way to get me to play games.
One of the bosses of Rustling Tame boss, and I just want to see like more hear about what do you think about it. It's also very, very funny game. Like it's adult humor, but it's funny.
That Saints Row 3 has like one of my favorite opening segments of all time with the plane, where so to frame things a little bit, Lotus, since it's just the opening sequence, it begins with you and the female lead. Your character can be like you can customize your character very heavily in Saints Row. You're jumping out of a plane, both of you, and you like do this skydiving sequence where you rescue her, and then the villains, they try to fly the plane into you. So your protagonist looks at her and he goes, "Remember how happy you were the first time I saved you?" And then he drops her, and then he jump kicks the front of the plane, goes all the way through the plane, out the back again, and then rescues her a second time.
Wow.
Yes, that's the average day of a Saints Row.
That's the first like 10 minutes of the game.
That's fantastic.
Well, not the first 10 minutes is the tutorial match where you are trying to rob a bank.
Yeah, fine, but it's the opening like action sequence.
I do want to recommend. Yes.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say I also kind of like the way the first No More Heroes starts, where you get a little bit of narration of like who Travis is, but the first thing he actually says in the present in-game, like the first thing you see is just a door gets cut open and the people standing in front of it get slashed and their blood's everywhere, and Travis just goes, "Fuckheads!" and that's just the first thing he says like to the camera. It's like, wow, alright.
It's an establishing character.
Exactly, like this is the guy I'm playing as.
There should be a third game of that sequence, but I'm not trusting it to be up to notch, I'm afraid.
Well, whatever, there is going to be a third game, yeah. I'm hyped.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
I'm not.
Even if it's not, yeah, well.
I just love how Travis is playing freaking Hotline Miami in the trailer. It's like, shout out to Hotline Miami, which is a great game, by the way, but of course Travis would like that game.
It is apparently like linked into this Nindies program where Nintendo is like trying to bring a lot of independent developers onto the Switch shop.
Nintendo and indies, like Nintendo select indie games the way like a farmer puts haystack on the cars, just grabs them by the mass and smears them into their consoles.
Yeah, I mean, it is still cool of Nintendo to give them the shot though, because Nintendo is usually pretty like protective. Like it's like, AAA developers only, so it's kind of cool that they're giving him a shout out, because like usually Sony and Xbox One kind of corner the market on that. Mm-hmm. Sony and Xbox One, like Sony and Microsoft.
The problem is that third-party developers don't like Nintendo because they don't like they don't like to keep up with their eccentric behavior.
Yeah, they apparently have some pretty draconian rules.
That's been true basically as long as they've been a video game company, probably before that.
Yeah, but anyway, long story short, too late again. That's been my week. So how about you, OldManStompy?
All right, so I didn't really watch a lot of wrestling this week. I know that's shocking. We're in a bit of a lull because the last time I was on, I talked a lot about the fallout from one of the major shows. It takes a while before things sort of build back up again to a climax. The biggest thing that they've had is this Mae Young Classic, which I think I talked about before. It's this women's tournament. They've been airing on the network. But even that only just started. They've only put out a few episodes, and they haven't really gotten to any like really high quality matches that I feel comfortable sort of recommending to people. So instead, I'm going to start with what I did yesterday, because I knew I would be on the podcast today, so I thought I should do something other than play Final Fantasy XIV, so I would have something else to talk about this week. I watched about half of a show on Netflix called Glow, which has nothing to do with wrestling. It's called Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. I lied. It has a lot to do with wrestling.
Aw, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah, so Glow is actually a wrestling promotion that was filmed, I think, out of Las Vegas. It was a real television program in the 80s. It was an attempt to film a wrestling TV show built entirely around a female cast, and it was like pretty exploitative, but like exploitative in the same way that like blaxploitation was exploitative, and that it was still like a good vehicle for a lot of actors and actresses who didn't fit the Hollywood mold to like get some exposure. So the show is like really fascinating. It's still surprisingly accurate in the sense that like a lot of the stereotypes that the characters use to establish their wrestling personas are like still used today. So it's actually a little depressing to see that like what was considered to be kitschy in the 80s is like still a valid wrestling heel tactic. Like in
it's like to me it's really not doesn't say much, because here in Europe wrestling is not really much of a thing. Like as much fun as it should like look like, sadly it's not really showing up its head.
Yeah. It's very lowbrow. I will say, like, I only know of a couple of very high profile like wrestlers from parts of Europe other than the UK. So I'm sure it's not very popular outside.
Not that like I live in Central Europe. You don't get anything. Like we actually like my first exposition to like WWF was actually a game. Was one of the first DOS WWF games. I think it had Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, Hitman Hart, Bam Bam Bigelow, Undertaker, Doink, and Doink the Clown. Yes,
was he the clown?
Yes.
Oh man,
clown.
I remember from like the Genesis or something.
And someone called Yokozuna, which is I'm not sure there was actually a sumo wrestler.
So Yokozuna is a classic WWF character in the sense that he's supposed to be a Japanese sumo wrestler, but he's played by a Samoan guy.
So anyway, those were the characters, and that was my only input. And I think I've seen like one wrestling match, and that was it. I don't even remember about.
That's actually really funny. Like the roster that you gave me, like all of those guys are like former champions and Doink.
I was just about to say, fucking Doink was a champion. Like,
I think the wording was that it hit me like all are wrestling and that guy
and Doink. So it's Doink is actually like a really famous character in the sense that he's like one of those guys who spawned like a million imitations of himself. He's like the Elvis Presley of wrestling. There's like 50 guys who played Doink the Clown on the independent circuit.
Nice.
To the point that like the actual guy who started out playing Doink the Clown in like WCW, he passed away. And like the Onion version of wrestling, their first article was like Doink the Clown receives send off from 37 fake Doinks at funeral.
That's amazing. 37 fake Doinks. You're not even the real Doink.
Oh god, the real Doink, please stand up.
Yeah. That is amazing.
All right. Anyway, so I do recommend watching Glow. So the only thing that I would say about it is that the storylines are really simplistic, a lot like wrestling. Like, things resolve itself almost like a Saturday morning cartoon, which I guess was funny because Glow was supposed to be a Saturday morning cartoon show. Like, the executive who tried to pick it up was in charge of Saturday morning family-friendly program, and they got this, like, women's wrestling program written by, like, a B-movie director, so it was not quite as G-rated as they were expecting, and he tried to like insert all of this blue humor even in the real-life version, not just the Netflix television show version. Like, that eventually caused these creative differences that partially torpedoed the show back in the 80s. So, like, the actual stories, like, some of these characters are drug addicts, but it's never really, like, there's no pathos about it. Like, they're all, like, very simplistic and happy, aside from, like, resolving their, like, personal conflicts. Like, it's a very uplifting show for the time period and the genre and, like, the situation the characters find themselves in. It's also very funny. I don't want to spoil any of the jokes. I know we tend to, especially with, like, Southpaw and things like that, like, spoil a lot of famous lines from scenes and trying to discuss them, but this is a relatively new show, and I've heard it's already been picked up for a second season, so it's worth following for people who like binge watching things on Netflix. I don't know if it's available outside of America, but I definitely recommend it. I have 4 episodes left to watch. We'll probably binge them before the end of the Labor Day weekend, so you guys should check it out. speaking of Labor Day, so you guys can't see this, but if Lotus and Dracologist can verify that I look like I'm like hunched over on the webcam right now, like looking down at the camera. Part of that is because I'm kind of set up in my parents' basement because I'm visiting for Labor Day. And the second reason is because my back is killing me because I went to my sister's place and we poured a ton of concrete by hand, more or less, and shovel into her steps to... So we celebrated the Labor Day weekend by performing much more manual labor, probably more in that one day than I do in like an entire year of my actual job as a computer programmer. So I'm creaking a little bit, like my back is shot, but I am rewarded by days and days of barbecue. So
Yes.
That's a fair trade-off, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I need like that iron in my diet to replenish the energy that I spent. So tomorrow I'll actually be hosting a barbecue at my parents' house. I'll be doing all the grilling. I will be the grill master. So I'll try to put Pyro to shame. I'll try to live up to Pyro's expectations. Not that he'll be there, but he's hosted a couple of good barbecues at his house that we've talked about previously on the show. Mm-hmm. So not that anybody who's on the show is invited because it's mostly for my family, but
am I invited?
You're invited, but I feel like that would be... I would be surprised if you came, since it's tomorrow, all the way from Hungary. Especially staying up till like 5 or 6 in the morning, your time, to record this podcast, so thanks.
Yeah.
Ching!
Yeah.
I gave a thumbs up.
Otherwise, I'll give my Final Fantasy XIV minute, because that's the other major thing that I occupy my time with. So apparently, I had been telling myself that I was getting a little bit burned out in the game, and I was going to sort of walk away from it a bit, but there was a 14-hour live stream with the director, Yoshi P, of the game. And the Level 5 CEO called into the stream, and apparently he's a huge fan of the game.
Wow.
And last year, there was a collaboration between Final Fantasy XIV and Yokai Watch, which is kind of a Pokemon-style game, a series of games for the 3DS. And they released like 13 pets in Final Fantasy XIV themed after the Yokai Watch characters, and it was like a really grindy event to get all the pets and all of the weapons and character items and glamour items that you get for your character through the event, specifically because the Level 5 CEO requested it to be that way, because all the Level 5 games are almost habitually like incredibly grindy, like Ni no Kuni, Dragon Quest IX, Dark Cloud, Dark Chronicle, Rogue Galaxy, even Jeanne d'Arc. Like all those games are
Ace Attorney Cross Layton.
Well, okay, that one's not quite so grindy.
By the way,
those are good games.
Also, the level 5 CEO, I think it's still the same guy. I think he was one of like the creators of Overblood for the PS1.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just like
that's not a very grindy game.
No, it isn't.
It grinds your gears, I think.
Yeah, touche.
All right, that's a good descriptor.
Yeah.
But anyway, he called into the live stream and he plays the game, and he said that like the event was so grindy that even he couldn't get all the characters from his own game.
That's
so
insane.
Like, so he's like, could you put them in the cash shop so that I could just buy them? And he's like, no, we can't put somebody else's characters into our cash shop and make money on them unless
But the CEO is giving permission.
Well, he's not the legal team. Like, he doesn't own the rights.
Damn.
So they were like, well, can you restart the event for like 3 days? I only need like 2. He's like, oh, you know what? I'll restart it for like 2 months.
Wow.
And so so all of a sudden today that event reopened, and I wasn't playing in 2016. I didn't get to do that. So now we are getting together our play group. Mr. Ryu, I'm sure if he didn't do it last year, he'll come back and at least participate when he gets back from Japan. And we're gonna grind yokai characters for the next like 2 months. So I guess
awesome.
I guess if I wasn't burned out on the game this week, I'm going to be burned out by the end of the Yokai Watch event, which I mean, the story to me is funny right now. Maybe I won't even make it to the end. Maybe my wife will do it, like, and she'll just show me what all the weapons look like, because she's a little bit more into the grind life than I am, or like my other friends who like we play Final Fantasy with. I gotta call Pyro like when he gets back from Japan, let him know that there was like the spontaneous, unexpected release of this like collaborative event that nobody expected to ever come back.
That's pretty amazing.
Yep. So that's my schedule. The last thing I'd like to know is the only other game I've played this week other than Final Fantasy XIV is an indie game for the Vita and PS4 called Oceanhorn. It's a Zelda-style game. and I saw it for the first time at PAX earlier this year, being demoed. Decided I really wanted to play it. I tried to buy it from Limited Run Games, which led to that rant that I had a couple weeks ago, because it was impossible to get a hold of. I think it was on sale for about 2 minutes total. So I just bought the downloaded version for the Vita. My only thoughts would be that it successfully is like an old school Zelda game. It's got all the gameplay elements of it. It's like very unapologetically a Zelda game. You know, your items are like the jump, the arrows, and the bombs, and a couple spells.
Sure.
And you know, you progress through the levels, and you collect like 3 of something, not the Triforce, but whatever they called it in the game. There's basically no story, and there shouldn't be, because the character models don't look very good when you get up close to them. So there's no like pathos to the characters when you actually look at their. But there's something sort of loose about the game, and I could put my finger on it when you were describing Dark Souls earlier, in that like when you have an open exploration game like Dark Souls, the well-designed ones are good at letting you explore the world freely, but if you're just sort of like letting the game direct you where to go, you almost always wind up about where you need to be, right? That's the point of these whole Doors to Before. They make it easy for you to be where you're supposed to be after you finish a quest line. And like the original Zelda games are actually pretty good about this too. Like they encourage you to go out and try to find all the optional stuff. But if you're sort of exploring a dungeon without trying too hard, oftentimes if you find like a key, the door is not very far from where you find that key. And most players will sort of stumble on the door that key belongs to, on average, the majority of the time. Oceanhorn doesn't have that like tightness to it, and there's a lot of backtracking, and it gets a little frustrating. But it's still a pretty good game, and you know, for the indie game price, I think it's like $12 or whatever, or $15. I would recommend picking it up if you have some time. It's probably about a 10-hour game. I'm not quite done with it yet, but I will be in a couple of play sessions.
Sure.
That was my week. If we have no other additions, I think we have time for one question. This will be a bit of a long episode, but since we have a unusual guest star, I thought we'd give them a little bit more room to discuss.
Faux show. So I had mentioned last week that General Ledger had a question. He kind of had 3 in 1, and we only had time for one of them. So here's part 2. Is there any setting or genre that you would like to see more of? Now,
right. It's a pretty open question.
Yeah, I mean, so, I don't know about a genre offhand, but I can definitely think of a setting. I forgot if I've mentioned this on the podcast or not, but I've definitely mentioned this at some points before. I would love to see some sort of zombie apocalypse game or some game like Doom, but where you're going through a normal neighborhood and you can go into the houses. Because games just generally don't do that. Like, the closest I've seen lately, and I use the term lately really loosely, is something like Fatal Frame 2, where you go through an abandoned village, or Resident Evil 4, the village in the beginning of the game, where you can go into actual houses and there's zombies chasing you. Like, Doom 2 Hell on Earth was supposed to do that, but I didn't really appreciate, like, oh, I feel like I'm on Earth. It just felt like a Doom game. Like, it didn't really look like I'm going into houses. Like, there were some places where we went into office buildings, and that did help. But I would love to see a game where you just are going through a neighborhood, like a normal neighborhood. One of my favorite things I've seen was Doom 3 had the ability to mod it on the PC, and you could create your own Doom levels. And I remember watching a YouTube video of one person who had made just his house. And he was just going through his house, and there are Doom enemies. I'm like, this is the greatest idea. Like, if I had the ability, like, if I had the talent to do something like that for my house, I absolutely would have. Like, I would love to see a Doom game or a zombie game like that. And again, Resident Evil 2 kind of came close, but you never went to houses. You went to, like, you went to places that made sense, like the police station in 2 and 3, or like the zoo in 3. But yeah,
I feel like Dracologist has a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm really preventing this from happening.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that, considering Lotus doesn't really play Doom mods, I just wanted to say there are plenty of like really well made mods for Doom 1 and Doom 2. So if you want to look, I can give you links later if you want. But
yeah, sure.
Personally, like going into houses, I think for most people why they think the cardboard box houses, because making the inside of the houses is a little bit difficult, like that.
It is.
It requires effort, and the effort costs money.
Yeah, it's a pain, and there's lots of like little things that you wouldn't think of, but you would notice they were missing if you
I agree
see
with
them.
you. Like I do like when inside of a building is actually detailed, but
Or not even necessarily the inside of a building.
imagine like just a city. Imagine how much building in that city, and imagine how much room is.
It'd be insane. No, but you know what? You know what I could also settle for though is like if we can't do the houses, because I understand that is a tall order. If you can't do that, then I would also settle for like the very beginning of Resident Evil 2, like where you're just walking down a street, you know, and there's just houses on either side. Like at least if it just feels like a neighborhood, that'd be like super rad.
So I can think of like some levels in like Fear kind of hit this note. You know, like the Fear series. Like, some of them take place in like shopping malls. One of them is in a school.
Sure.
Like, they're surprisingly mundane.
If I can mention the Monolith game Blood, which has a lot of
Blood, yeah.
Various cultist areas of large like these occult cathedrals. There are a lot of levels that are based on like cities and such, like and those actually have like areas you can walk in, like you can go into a museum or such. You still have to imagine that these places are 2.5D, so they not actually 3D. But hey, it somewhat covers that area.
Yeah, and Parasite Eve kind of pulled that off with the police station.
I would imagine you could do this like in a procedurally generated way these days. Like I'm sure someone clever enough could figure out how to do it without having to create a lot of assets.
Probably, but problem is with procedural generation that you really want to work out every little kink, or else you're going to have game like self-breaking sequences. The blue keys behind the blue door.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. How about you, Dracologist? What sort of settings would you like to see, or genres that you'd like to visit that we have?
Genres I would like to see is more shooters, like more action based. Like we have all the Call of Duty we can eat, even if we don't like it. But I would like to see more Shadow Warriors type. Would like to see more Doom style games. I would like to see a serious Sam that is actually starting like Please, Crow Team, remake your weapons. They are fucking boring. I know, like you really like the minigun and the coach gun, but they're not very good. Anyway, like I do want to see like more like creatively playing action shooters. Like the way how Doom works is really good. The way Shadow Warriors the movement is really just feels really right.
Okay.
As for settings, I would like to see something similar to Arcanum of Magic and Steam Obscura for once.
Arcanum is pretty old school, isn't it?
It's basically it's archetypical steampunk, like steampunk meets Tolkienic lore basically.
Interesting.
It's very nice, but it's a very difficult game, and I basically picked it up from the store. Oh, I'm gonna play this game, and then like 5 steps more, like okay, I'm way about my own head. The other setting is like it's not really a setting, but more like a visual style. I would like to see a little bit more H.R. Geiger like stuff, and
that would be amazing.
Like how many games you can tell that is similar, that use that style of art style aside from Turrican?
Yeah, not counting the Alien games, but
and R-Type and Contra. Like R-Type, Contra, and Turrican use those Alien.
Oh, I forgot about Contra, but I totally forgot about Contra, but that should have been an obvious one. But I was gonna say Darkseid 1 and 2.
Yes, but fucking obviously that's actually official Giger art.
Yeah, it's like literally like some of his art that you can buy like appears in that game in video game form.
The story is that Darkseid 1 had official Giga art, like they hired him. In Darkseid 2, they could not hire him, but so they actually used various already made arts of his and basically photoshopped them into levels. Which is ironically one of the levels is one of the one that has the big VVs on it.
Oh, really?
Yes, one of the, like when you exit a labyrinth, there is an area that has, I'm fairly sure it's been heavily modified because it was like a big giant building that has large phalli standing out of the side. So
Darkseid 2, rated AO for adult only.
that game was interesting. Like when you moved into the dark, like you could learn a little bit extra about the other side of the world, but I didn't like it because it played out more like a Tales of the Crypt and less like a Lovecraftian story.
Okay.
However, I would like to call attention to a game called Scorn, which is it had a trailer and people was like, oh, like that. Imagine like today's 3D graphics, 3D environment that reflects this H.R. Geiger stuff.
Yeah, that would be gorgeous.
I will show you after the show. It is jaw-dropping. Like it's just a trailer so far. Like they didn't, and it's like amazing. Like I think the problem though is that it's not entirely H.R. Geiger. There is a lot of influence about it, but it kind of has a more squishier, like the more organic bits. Like if you look at the H.R. Geiger picture, it's more like he personally said that his inspiration are mostly from fossils and such. Like these most of his pictures are very much feels like dead or being deceased or something that you unearthed from somewhere or very mechanic at that.
No wait, this is Scorn, like the word, like SCORN?
Yes, Scorn.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna need to look into that.
It's supposedly be a sort of this explorative horror game with with very little action because limited resources.
Sure.
And it looked very much like something that hit you in the chest. It was very inspiring.
Okay. Huh. Or come out of your chest, am I right?
No, it has to go into there somewhere, but before it comes out.
Well, it goes in via your face.
That's something that I never understand how that's going to work, but oh well. Like the whole alien lore has been so contorted out of meaning that it's like, come on guys, like.
That's okay. I've only seen 1, 2, and Resurrection. I'm good. The lore still makes sense for me.
The basic, like one I heard that basically that alien queens doesn't supposed to be even exist because aliens only have like a mayfly lifespan, because like after they go on a bloody rampage they actually supposed to die off.
Okay.
Anyway, moving aside from face-eating monsters, I would like to see a little bit more H.R. Geiger because it's a very stunning art style. Or just any kind of art style that is not like saying interesting is very uninspired, but just striking or unique or alien in that form. Like I know like Mass Effect's supposed to be this big sci-fi thing, but the metal sheet paneling and the glowing alien bits are just not stimulating. And not to mention that that whole game feels to me like some sort of strange progeny of Star Trek at best. Even with the whole end of the world thing, it's like you are captain of the Starfleet and you shagging all the alien birds. Gee, thanks.
Nice. But none of them are green though, so it's completely different.
Oh no, it's not green. It's blue. Gee, thanks.
Yeah, that's true actually.
At least if you make an alien race, try to make it less human, because it's somehow in old school movies, it kind of makes sense that you couldn't make up an interesting alien race without the big lumbering costumes.
Yeah, you could tell later Nimoy was an alien because his ears were a little pointier, like
yes,
the whole
space
costume.
Elf. He was a space elf. He was an He was an Eldar. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in our Warhammer 40k stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, more Giger would be great.
More of that, please.
Yeah.
More shooters. More.
Right. You got anything?
So I guess I'll pick a couple. So I'm going to stick with franchises that I feel like have sort of fallen into disrepair by their developers, and So I'm gonna start with the Mana series. That's something I'd like to see revisited. I know Square has tried to sort of pump out more Mana games periodically for the Sony consoles and also for the DS and 3DS. Most of them have not been very good, and part of that, I think, is because, if I'm not mistaken, because Kingdom Hearts occupied the action RPG slot for their production lineup, they sort of tried to squeeze Mana into a different direction. So, there was a Mana game which was like a Diablo clone, a Mana game that was an RTS, basically everything but like the classic Secret of Mana style gameplay, aside from releasing like mobile ports or re-releases of the older games on a whole bunch of
games. I was just gonna mention they very recently announced a re-release or like a remaster of the original Secret of Mana. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, so like Sword of Mana I think came out already. It's definitely been out in Japan for a while.
Okay.
Secret of Mana also, I guess that was the remake they announced. I thought that had also been in Japan for a while because there was a collaborative event with the mobile Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, which usually happens when they're releasing another game to the mobile devices. So I think that was actually out in Japan a while ago, but I may be mistaken. We'll have to fact check later. But anyway, specifically I would choose like the Legend of Mana version because they have a loose canon, just like Final Fantasy has a loose canon, where some of the games appear to be interconnected and they all share certain thematic elements and like character names. So the Legend of Mana one, that was one of my favorite PlayStation games. It's probably my favorite game for the series. The soundtrack was fantastic. It was by Yoko Shimomura, who we all know as Final Fantasy 15, Kingdom Hearts, the original Secret of Mana, Live Alive, a whole bunch of other JRPGs, among other things. The atmosphere was excellent. It was kind of like a dying post-apocalyptic world. So just like a lot of these scenarios, like Hollow Knight, like part of the reason you find it so compelling is because you are looking for some light to fight for. Like you're looking for that one like carrot at the end of the stick. Like everything is so.
For Dark Souls, that is the goal. But I actually find more fascination with looking at all the dead bodies and. No, but I mean, like they have items on them that, if it's like armor or something, it indicates something about them. Like I'm actually kind of more interested in how the hell we got here. Because like with Dark Souls, there is a goal, but it's like, yeah, but look at the world though.
Yeah, like trying to fight, and you still manage to blunder it up, or you just easily, like. Yeah. But basically, there always is the Dark Souls story is always the same. Like you either continue the tormentor cycle, or you break the cycle and kill everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, you get all the way to Dark Souls 3 without really getting a conclusive answer on that. So.
Yeah, I still gotta play 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Besides the Mana games, I would just like another Mega Man Battle Network game. That's a bit of a...
wow.
I actually saw Let's Play on a clever game, if a little bit.
What was that? That was GBA?
The first ones were GBA, the first series, 1 through 6, and then there was a DS series that played very similarly, but was a different canon.
Okay.
They both had very definitive endings at the end of their respective series, and of course Capcom doesn't really seem very interested in making new Mega Man games in any of their series. So I'm not very optimistic about it ever coming out, and especially since like the only...
There's one... I just realized there is one more roguelite. 20XX, which is a roguelite Mega Man game.
Mm.
This one I have seen. I haven't played it, but yeah, it's interesting that someone managed to make a compelling roguelite specifically in the Mega Man style platforming genre. That's really fascinating to me. Because I would imagine platforming is hard to get right, like procedurally generated, because you have to make every level sort of possible and intuitive. I think they think are made like in prefab pieces, like a dark, like Space Hulk level, like you have pre-made bits and you stick them together in various random ways. Yeah, I get that makes sense. I mean I guess that's not that different from how Binding of Isaac does it, right? You have a bunch of predefined rooms and you'd assemble a dungeon out of them, and just how you chain one room to the next and how each one leaves you prepared to take on the next one is a lot of the fun. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Neat.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's all I had. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Wanted to say that my reaction to the Secret of Mana remake was yay, fluffy dragon.
Oh right, I actually now I remember. I was amused by the fact that like in the remake, the dragon Flammy has like the same hair as the hero.
It always had a little tuft of hair, I think.
Yeah, but it's like it literally looks like the same like polygon, just like it looks like a Photoshop. Like someone photoshopped the hair off of Randy and put it on Flammy.
Randy and Flammy.
Yeah. I know I've made fun of this before, but it always amused me that the protagonist in Secret of Man is actual canonical.
Yeah,
name.
Randy.
It's like the last name that I expected. You know, not that he's like anybody special before the game starts, but that's like the last name I would have picked for him.
Oh well.
Or oh well, yeah. We I guess are not doing the weigh-in. We'll mention it because it makes Lotus happy.
Hey,
we would have done it. That we would have done it if Ice was here, but we won't. And that's Chocolate Nut for Pyro Dude because he's always curious if we're actually going to at least say something about the weigh-in segment. But beyond that, I think that's our Corrective Consciousness show for this week. So we'd like to thank our fan who contributed a question and all of our other fans who contribute the questions that we continue to answer in subsequent weeks. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs up, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps us promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement keeps Vice happy. You can catch us on
keeps
Thursdays.
Vice happy.
You can also catch us on Thursdays on our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as OldManStompy, not Vice the Bold, on most major social media networks and gaming networks except for Steam. And as for you guys?
Well, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up at Twitter, at Lotus Prince, all one word. And if you're interested in seeing my videos early, or getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, then consider swinging by my Patreon, which is patreon.com/LotusPrince. Again, the part of the slash is all one word. You want to promote anything, Dracologist?
No, because you can find me anywhere, as usual.
All right.
You can find him in the comments of all of the Corrective Consciousness.
Yes.
Yes.
Otherwise, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week, or on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Viszontlátásra!
Cheers.